Hey guys, I'm Chantal with Growing Up Without Borders. If you are brand new to our channel, welcome, welcome. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get more of these type of videos. I am here right now live from Wellington, New Zealand, which is the capital of New Zealand, you guys. And I'm here with Tara, who is a Kiwi American. She runs Kiwi American on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all social channels, so go check her out. But we are today going to do a fun talking video for you guys. We're going to cover everything about why New Zealand is one of the top countries to live in.
Yes, it is.
Well, we don't know. We're going to let them judge at the end.
Okay, we'll let them judge.
Comment below.
You be the judge.
You be the judge. We're going to talk about some of the key factors like safety, finances, healthcare, cost of living, of course, education, ease of doing business, all those things in a short video for you guys with an expert. She's lived here now how many years?
I lived here for 5 years. We are a family of 6 that have moved from the U.S. to New Zealand around 2013. We lived here for 2 years. We moved back to the States for 2 years, and now we've been here for 3 years.
So she knows what she's talking about. She's lived in both. She's kind of experienced both worlds. We've been to over 100 countries, if you don't know us already. We've lived in many, and so we've been able to experience different things, but she really knows the full insight, because it's different when you're just passing through a country than when you are living in a country.
Living in a country.
Right? So let's start. Number 1, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons, by the way. We won't leave out the cons because there are some cons to living in New Zealand as well. So we'll cover those at the end. And like I said, comment below if you have any suggestions or thoughts yourself on some of these topics. So let's start with safety. Safety is a big one.
Safety is a big one.
Safety is huge.
And
what is it like?
It also kind of depends on where you're coming from. So I can speak, very well as to what it's like living in New Zealand compared to the U.S. in terms of safety. But it's, in my opinion, it is so much safer here in New Zealand. Like I grew up, or I was living in Milwaukee, and it's one of the most segregated cities, most dangerous cities.
Wow.
Gunshots are common. To get into high school, you have to go through the
metal detectors
and
bulletproof glass, all that stuff.
And you just know, in general in the U.S., we have school shootings, we have a lot of violence, and really, honestly, if you're international, the violence that you're hearing about on the news, it's a lot more than what's on the news.
Wow. See, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's
it's crazy.
Nuts.
And
so safety here, kids go to school, they walk to school, a lot of them, they scooter, you see them on their little scooters going to school.
They can ride public transportation on their own once they're 11. Yeah. And you actually, as a parent, feel totally safe with that. It's amazing. It's like, and it's interesting because when I talk to some, it's not to say that there isn't dangerous spots in New Zealand, but the level of danger is totally different. Okay, so I talk to people in more dangerous areas and well, it's not safe here, and you always talk about it being so. Okay, so I never want someone to feel unsafe, number 1. But the level of unsafe is, I gotta tell you, is different.
It's a different level of
unsafe. We're dealing with, nobody has guns here and everybody has guns there. Okay, so school shootings, no school shootings, it's different.
Yeah, you also don't see parents kind of overpowering their kids. Like, for example, you go to a beach. If you're in Florida, for example, or anywhere in the U.S., people are overpowering their kids. Always be careful with this, be careful. Always, they're on edge. And the kids don't have this freedom of living that here, the kids can just go out and roam around. And the parents aren't over on top of them trying to control every move they make. Right. And that gives a certain liberty to kids to develop and become who they should be and just become a responsible citizen versus having your parents tell you everything you should and shouldn't do at a young age.
Right. And also when you come from an unsafe country where you have to keep your eyeballs on your kids from the moment that they're born is a very big job. But when you come to New Zealand and they can walk out the door and walk to school, and that's an unbelievable freedom that you don't realize.
Huge.
It's amazing.
Another thing you have here in New Zealand is people sometimes, in many places I visited, do not lock their front doors. And that is unheard of unless you're from rural Canada or certain areas of the world. But they'll literally leave their door unlocked. They don't even know where their front door key is. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, we don't lock our door.
Of course there are thefts and there are city centers that have issues and stuff like that. That's normal. But for the most part, it is not like other countries. You can't do that in many
When you're talking
countries.
about 1, maybe 2 homicides in a year, it's not the same.
Totally different. Okay, so that hopefully covers the safety factor.
Yes, good.
Now let's talk about people. Okay, I have never been in a country. We, post videos on different travel videos that we do. I've never been in a country other than El Salvador where people literally are welcoming us in their homes, welcoming us over for barbecues, telling us they want to invite us in, telling us like you're welcome. And I think maybe one of the reasons, and you might know more, this country is made up of a lot of international people, right?
Yes.
People come in from, so they're more welcoming to maybe different cultures coming in. I don't know.
But you know what? I think there's a lot of countries that have, you know, in the U.S. is a melting pot of culture, but they're not welcoming like they are here.
Yeah, like in the U.S., somebody might invite you over, but it's very superficial as well. It might be like, hey, come on over. And
people
they
are nice.
They're friendly.
People are nice, but here it's different. Like they genuinely want to know you.
Yeah.
They want to know about you. Like, oh, you're from there? Ooh, that's cool. Tell me about this. And when they invite you over, it's not coming over for an hour. It's come, have dinner, stay for 3 hours. Yeah. That's normal.
And so I've lived in other countries where you don't go inside people's homes. They invite you maybe, but it's for a coffee outside at a restaurant or a social place. And it's like you're literally invited into homes here. And it's just it's a really nice. People are also more relaxed in general. People have an easy way of going of life. Like they wear flip-flops everywhere. Here they call them jandals, but they wear flip-flops. Yep. They wear bare feet.
Or no shoes.
Or no shoes. You know, they'll go into like a grocery store or a bank, and that's just
it's allowed, you know?
Yeah, it's normal. You go to some places and that's just like, kids go to school barefoot in the younger ages. Yeah. Crazy. So it's just like overall relaxed. The people are more easygoing.
Yes.
They're not
no worries.
Yeah.
I can't be bothered.
I can't be bothered, like a mug says.
No worries. It's so great because you just the stress free that you feel if you're late for something, if you forgot something, if you made a mistake. Everybody is very just reasonable,
and they're real about it.
It's just like when I get off the plane here, you know, like I'm visiting the state that I come here, it's just like this huge relief. You don't have to fight for everything. Yes. Everybody's reasonable. Yes. The laws here are reasonable. Everything kind of makes sense. Yeah. What a concept.
And when people talk to you, they talk like I was at the police station the other day for something, and the police officer was a lady, and she was like bubbly and outgoing, and I'm just not used to that because I've lived in Europe and other countries where they're like and just like talking about fighting. We don't fight with anybody here because there's no reason to.
Yeah.
You know, they don't give you a hassle. Everything's like sweet as, no problem. Like totally fine.
Yeah, because you ask people like, they don't understand why you'd ever need to carry a gun. Like they just have no idea.
Like, it sounds crazy.
It sounds crazy. Yeah. And like even if you follow the police, the New Zealand police on Facebook is hysterical.
Is it?
They do funny videos. They have funny comments all the time. And I'm like, and this is the police?
Yeah.
Like,
funny,
okay.
Yes. Okay, so there's the people and the overall, you know, ease of doing business. Of course, it's an English-speaking country. Everyone speaks English. They also speak Maori. If you don't know what Maori is, that's from the Polynesians that came over thousands of years ago. They were the first people here.
Yeah, they're the indigenous people. Yeah.
And it is an official language here. So that's pretty cool. So kids do learn that in school at a younger age, and very basic, but yeah. Okay, let's talk about the scenery, and let's talk about Earth in general here, because in New Zealand, their earth, their forest and everything is very well, how do you say it? Like protected and kind of like appreciated, and well, they have a real sense of the environment.
So yeah, when I have people from the U.S. visiting here, they're driving around and like, you can't believe that you can just drive across these beautiful mountains and beaches and there's no development. Yeah. Okay, there's not like loaded with condos, you know, and it's like untouched feeling and preservation.
Yeah,
that
preservation
you feel here.
is key.
Yes,
preservation for the environment and appreciation for the environment.
And it's always green because it never gets cold enough to not really be green, and so like it's always beautiful. You know, like I'm from the Midwest, and you just go through months and months of everything looks disgustingly brown with no green, you know, and you can't grow anything, and so yeah, it's so beautiful here. And and it carries over into their products. So when you go to a grocery store, in general, their products are, if you look at the back of an ingredient of a bottle, it's in general a lot less ingredients, a lot less chemicals, a lot less environmentally safe and geared towards the environment, because there's that appreciation for it. So in all, New Zealand has a much I think that you would be hard pressed to find a more beautiful place where you can kind of get all of the things that you like: mountains, beaches, rivers, valleys, like I'm living in the valley, and I can drive 20 minutes. I can be in farmland. I could be in the most beautiful mountain range the other direction.
Yeah.
I could be on the beach, and just so close in proximity. Like there's many beautiful places in the U.S., but you have to, it's 2-day travel to get there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so it is a long country, so don't get us wrong. It's like major long, but when you look at the size of it this way, you can get from one coast to one coast. So if surf's bad on that side, you can just go to the other side. You know what I mean? And you don't have that in other countries. And like you're saying, it's so diverse. It's such a small.
It's amazing, and like to me, it's just when people come here, like it's common to say that this place is like the Garden of Eden.
Wow,
because it's just so beautiful and untouched.
Very cool. Let's talk about healthcare. Healthcare is a big one, depending on which country you come from. So for me, it's quite similar because I'm originally from Canada, so we have a very similar healthcare. Basically, explain healthcare here.
Yes, the healthcare is like a universal healthcare system, and if you are a permanent resident, or if you're on a certain visas, you get access to the healthcare. And so everybody gets a GP. You sign up wherever you live. You sign up for the GP, and you go there if you're sick. And then if you need any specialties, and the GP recommends it, then that's also included. But you have to kind of funnel through the GP. You can't just like show up to a specialist unless you have insurance. So you can. It's all free for people, and it's but you can get insurance. And my insurance for like a family of 6 is only like $50 a month, which is unbelievable. And so I can just walk into a specialist and it's included.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
It's so amazing, the healthcare, you guys. And then like the prescription drugs, $5, $10 at the most. A lot of times $0 for kids. And then like kids dental free until they're 18. Kids are free medical until they're 13, I believe. That's just...
So it's totally in the taxes. So do you pay more taxes than you would, let's say, in another country that you have to pay in the U.S., where you have to pay your healthcare and your taxes? Or overall, is it...
it's significantly less. So if I just look at income tax alone, U.S. compared to New Zealand, it's roughly the same. It's a little bit less in New Zealand overall, because we, doing the same job, so you're in the same kind of tax bracket. But the way that they calculate tax is a little different. Well, we can talk about that. But then with the added healthcare costs for a family of 6 in the U.S. to have insurance, to even be able to go to the doctor, was $500 to $600 a month.
Yeah.
In addition to that.
It's massive differences.
Massive
differences. So you might be watching this video and you might be in the retirement age or looking to retire in a certain country. Would you say New Zealand is a good spot to come to retire? Because I know there's a lot of people looking out there and be like, oh, should I go to Portugal? Should I go to Eastern Europe? Should I go to Panama?
Yeah,
but honestly, guys, New Zealand is not the place to necessarily have an easy way to come and say, look, I've got this much in my pension and I'm going to come and live in New Zealand. Yeah. It's not an easy country to just come move to. In general, it's not an easy country to just say, I want to be living in New Zealand. No. So how do you get to live in New Zealand if you are, let's say, a younger age?
So it's great if you're under 40. You get more points for that. So it's a point system. So you can just go on the New Zealand immigration. You can fill out. You can see how many points you can get. You need a minimum, and I don't know the number because it's always changing, to then apply to come here. And then once you apply, if you can get a job in like their shortlisted list of jobs that they're looking for, you'll have a much better chance. But yeah.
So if you're a professional and you've got a great degree, it is recognized potentially here.
Yeah. Yes.
You might be able to get an easy way in and be able to live here in this beautiful country. Yeah. So that is one of the ways. What about the concept of people first? So in this country, of course, there's COVID right now, and they have successfully really undertaken this whole COVID thing and been able to keep New Zealand pretty much COVID free for the last year. The whole year we've been no masks, no social distancing, except for when it first started. And we're right now with a little bit of a hiccup and such.
Yes.
But pretty much the concept of this country is people first versus economy.
Yes. And it's the value system of the country, and like everybody buys into that. And so when you have a pandemic that shows up and your prime minister says, this is what we're going to do, we're going to shut everything down and we're just going to eliminate it, and everybody is on board with that. And so when you have everybody that's willing to follow the rules, let's say, then you can eliminate it. And we did. And since June, we've had nothing. We've been living our lives 100% normal, except for that we can't travel internationally. But it's been amazing.
Yeah.
And you just have everybody, because like the core value of society is that we care about each other first.
That's
and
right.
that comes from the Maori culture and their value system of they really believe that if someone comes into their land, that they are just as important and that they should be valued and they should be taken care of.
Wow.
And
Imagine
that's where
that.
it starts.
Imagine
I know.
that. Imagine speaking to someone in the U.S. about that. Like, a lot of people, you know, there's been a lot of racial issues this year. I mean, gosh.
Yes.
But, like, imagine that people are equals and welcomed. I mean,
And
it's
welcome,
just
like
so
you're just like
different.
you're welcome to the point where like you're family.
Yeah.
So
they take you in on as their whānau. Is that how you say it?
Yes, you're whānau, and they call you auntie. You know, because you're family now.
Even here in New
You're
Zealand,
part
they say
of us.
cuzzy. Hey, cuzzy. You know,
Yeah,
it's
no,
common.
I know.
So, your family.
So it's so amazing. It's
All right.
just to feel so welcomed and loved like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and everyone's friendly. I mean, honest to God.
Honest to goodness.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
some of the other big things in New Zealand is there is no other country in the world, and there's a reason for this, but there's no other country in the world that you can do these crazy adrenaline rush
true.
activities. I mean, this is the place to come
But
and
they're
do
also creating it.
experiences.
They're creating these here.
They're
They
nuts.
start here.
They are nuts. I mean, some of the things you can do are so epic and so adventurous, but it's also because the businesses are able to provide that because they do have an insurance. If somebody comes and they get hurt doing those activities, it is covered under, what is it?
ACC, accident compensation coverage or something like that.
So there's no like, you know,
Yeah.
you go to the US, the kids can't even do something simple as making candle wax like candles where you dip because you have to sign a waiver. They can't just go into like a fire truck because the fire trucks are doing exposition. They have to sign waivers for everything just to like go look at it. Everything.
Well, because
is
you
just
can
so
get
annoying.
sued there. You don't get
So
sued
ridiculous,
here.
and it doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
So you get to do these
No
cool
liability.
experiences that you can't do anywhere in the
so
world.
great.
So if you want a crazy experience, come to New Zealand.
Yeah. They're crazy what they do.
Okay, what else? What else do we talk about?
I know, it's so great.
Education, you guys. What is the education biggest differences? If you were to say just a couple. Yeah. Could be
Yes.
positive, could be negative.
Okay, a couple things that I really love about the education here. I would say, how is it different compared to New Zealand and the U.S. is that it's very different. It's not better or worse. It's just very different. So what's really cool when you're primary age and you're coming in, they actually value you as a student as a whole instead of like, you know, how good they do on this test and how good can they write, how good can they read. Those are all very important here. But it's also, are they good swimmers? Are they a good participant in class? Are they, you know, it's them as a whole person. And it's really cool in primary age, they teach all the sports. The kids have to try everything. All the sports, drama, music, instruments. They
So it's
have
kind
to
of
try it.
well-rounded?
It's well-rounded. So they care about like a well-rounded person. And it's great because kids are so much like, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that. But honestly, they've never tried it. So, and then they can discover. So they're really about discovering what motivates you, what do you get excited about, and then kind of tailoring the learning that way as much as it can, at least at that age. And then it gets, you know, a little bit more difficult as they get into intermediate and secondary.
That's amazing. I went to a school with our 3 girls. So we have 3 girls and they went to speak at a school. And if you're open to it, we're welcome to coming to your school as well. So just reach out to us. But when they were there, they were surprised at how many kids had this like central area with all this like play area and fun things. And it seemed like open classrooms to the outdoors.
Yes,
and very
open
this open
classrooms,
kind of
yes.
concept that in the US, it was like locked in. You're locked into the door. Like there's this like kind of, I don't
Yes,
want
like
to
they
use the
do
word prison,
gardening here.
Yeah.
And they do, all these out, like you're
it's
gonna be cooking,
yeah,
sewing.
it's just different in the overall sense of like raising that child to be well-rounded, like you said.
And giving them responsibilities early. And they do, what I really like, and maybe this is because I'm a teacher of communication, but they always have the students speak in front of people early.
Oh,
so
that's
there's
great.
a lot of practice with that.
Oh, nice.
So I think that I just notice that with Kiwi children is they're very comfortable communicating, and when they get into like the older years, they're very good, and they kind of overcome that fear of public speaking.
That's
because
awesome.
they've done it a lot.
That's great. So another thing, this is a major one, is cost of living, you guys. So the general overall cost of living here in New Zealand is not like on the cheap side. There's so many
No.
more countries that you can go live in and are like way cheaper. Way cheaper. But in general, an overall balance, how would you describe it?
So it's an island, so a lot of things are imported and exported, right? And so, but we've lived, if you live, I would say it's similar to like living in like San Francisco. So that's noted to be like the most expensive city in the U.S. or maybe New York City or whatever, okay? But you're also going to be making more money. Like the minimum wage is $19.90 here. So like it all kind of balances out.
It balances out, right? But your housing cost has kind of like...
Yeah, so housing is expensive, fuel is expensive, and food is expensive. So it kind of, and like, so like your daily costs are expensive, but you don't have healthcare costs. You have it, and so we have found that it almost exactly evens out. In fact, like when we make about the same money in both countries if we're in the U.S. or here, and
like at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, after taxes and everything, we're able to save more in New Zealand. Not like a ton, but we do better here overall than we do in the U.S. because there's just little hidden taxes and things all the time.
Okay.
Just depending if you have your own company or, you know, you're an employee, but yeah. So.
Okay, overall happiness level, where is it at?
Oh, yeah. Oh, girl.
Tell me.
So, yeah, so much better here because you're just not stressed.
There you go.
And everything's reasonable.
There you go. And people are reasonable. It makes the stress level go down, you guys.
Yes, it's worth it. You know, like if you're going to either pay the doctor or you're going to pay for all the expensive living here.
There you go.
Here we go.
Yeah. Okay, so we can't paint this picturesque place as just all roses and beautiful everything. Oh. Although it kind of is.
It's kind of really amazing.
Guys. But okay, what are some of the cons? Okay, some of the cons.
There are some cons for sure. Some cons at earthquakes. There's a lot of earthquakes, volcanoes, you know, every place has its natural disaster, but
these ones are very devastating.
But these are big ones. Yes. Wellington in particular is on a fault line. So, and then we have volcanoes that can erupt, as we know with White Island in 2019 just exploded. Yeah. So that's a little. So you're living a little bit on the edge.
Living on the edge kind of like gives you that little, you know.
Oh,
so that's true. A major one.
But they're really great at they're very crazy about earthquake proofing everything.
Yeah, well, they've learned the hard way.
They've learned the hard way, but everything is. So when we have big earthquakes, like my husband has been really high up in a building downtown, and it barely moved. Wow. In a really big earthquake.
Yeah, I mean, they've
in China, the whole city went down in the same size. Wow. You know, so.
So there is that safety level there in regards to that.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I was downtown Wellington, and they had a sign on the store saying this building has not been, and they have X amount of time to get it to that stage. Correct. So that's cool. One of the biggest differences for me, I feel, is like it's so far away. And a lot of people are like, oh, but you know, it's just a flight. But if you have a family living overseas and you're coming here and you're working here, you are far from your family. And for them just to hop over, it's not an easy just jump on a plane and get here in 2 hours. You're far away. So that would be a con if you're coming from, you know, overseas in the Americas and such like that. If you're coming from Australia, well, hey, it's only 3 hours, right? It's no big deal.
Right, no big deal.
So it depends on where you're watching from. That might be an issue. One of the things is not having easy access to getting from one side of the country to the other. I mean, they do have flights, which is pretty fast and inexpensive.
Yeah, and inexpensive, yes.
But you can't just like hop on a local transportation and like get a quick in and out.
Right, because it's like 8 hours to Auckland from here, and it's a drive.
It's a big drive, and they don't have major highways, so their roads are like twisty turny, up, down, you know. Yes. So I mean, those are little things, but let's say you are wanting to live without a car. Well, you can't do that in New Zealand. That's just not a possibility.
Yeah, you should get a car unless you're living in the city. Then it's fine.
Yeah, but if you want to get around.
Yeah. Right.
So like in Europe, you know, you can just hop on a train, a bus, a boat, anything, and you can get from point A to point B like super easy. It's just not like that, but it's different. Totally different. What else? What are some other cons? Can you think of anything else?
Some things that drive me crazy.
What drives you crazy?
Is the speeding tickets.
Oh.
So in the U.S., you're allowed to go 10 over the speed limit normally without having any speeding ticket. Here, it means the speed limit is a speed limit. And so we've gotten tickets for like a couple kilometers over. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And they don't pull you over. They have cameras everywhere. Yeah. And they send you the ticket in the mail. And it's like $120.
I learned the hard way, too.
I was like, what? And so it's an adjustment. Like, I can understand. Like, okay, and the roads are windy. It makes sense. They're always worried about traffic accidents. But, you know, and so it's just an adjustment, though. Like, it took a while. And I think I'm adjusted now. But it was like years of like, oh, shoot, that's right.
crazy.
And yeah, so that's a big one. And then also like parking tickets are also really bad. Like it's like, I don't know, like they're hiding somewhere. Like I park, I'm like, I'm just gonna run in.
They're just on the ball.
They're just there.
They're just
and I'm
there.
like, dang it.
Yeah, you gotta really know about that.
You gotta really know about that. And like even when you park, like you have to park within the lines. If you're over the line, you can get a ticket for that too in the city.
You can in Europe as well.
Yeah, and so it's fine though. But this is my tip. If you're in New Zealand, is just call them up. I have appealed most things and said, hey, you know, I didn't know that this was a real, in fairness, like $69, really a lot of money when I was a little bit over a line.
Oh gosh.
And so, yeah, and because it's New Zealand, they're reasonable. They're like, oh, okay, that's fine. Well, you know, just know for next time or whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, okay, so that's not very many cons over the pros. So if you guys are watching and you can think of, and you've been here for maybe you're Kiwi watching and you're like, no man, there's so many more cons.
Yeah.
Let us know, because like we're still maybe in the honeymoon phase. Maybe this is the honeymoon phase of being in New Zealand.
Yeah,
we're just
5 years in the honeymoon phase.
and I've been only here a year. Maybe it's just like we all love it. So I don't know, but let us know in the comments below.
Yes,
guys.
that'd be great.
As always, thanks so much for watching. If you want to go check out her channel, she goes under KiwiAmericans.
Yes,
subscribe to our channel as well. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.